it's not connected to anyone yet, but Tom Skirman, our Economic Development Manager's out of town, but he is available. He's been standing by since 2 o'clock, so that when we get to discuss developing our economy, he could be available to answer questions or comment or contribute. So would you want to go on to that one now? Might be quite a good idea.
I think. Well, he was at.
He landed at.
He was up at Smedley just a few minutes ago. So okay, helicoptering back.
Time doesn't come up. He left Smedley at 1:30. Landed about just after 2.
So he is some way away.
Let's keep going.
Okay, I think we will move on the economic development one while we've got contact with a staff member who can answer questions.
Do you want me to dial him up?
Yeah.
So if you could get him on, we'll move on to that. Economic development, or developing our economy, as the consultation document had it, is found on page 52, attachment 4 of your major document, and on page, what of the briefer document?
5.
Page 5 of the briefer document. 52 in the
Sorry, which one?
developing our economy.
Technology.
Tom Skirman speaking.
Oh, hi Tom, it's Paul. We're up to your submissions on the economy, so I'll just leave you over to Councillor Scott. She's in the chair.
Good afternoon, Mr. Skirman, and how is Mystery Creek?
Can you hear that?
I can just hear that from Councillor Scott.
Okay.
Right.
You just have to speak a bit louder.
Okay, we're just up to taking questions on this one. Give us a shout if the question directed at you, you can't hear. All right, and we'll relay it to someone closer. All right. The consultation point was that our preferred option was to continue to support the economy at the same level of spending. So we had quite a range of, are there any questions on this aspect? Yes, Councillor Belford.
It's indicated in the page 5 of the consultation points, the shorter document here, that there's no funding request, specific funding request of Business Hawke's Bay. It does seem to me that in their submission, they've identified 3 or 4 areas and put price tags on those, saying that these are areas they would like to further discuss with councils. They talk about website, business development manager, some licensing, infometrics, and I thought somewhere there was a list here. I think it was this original funding request list that totaled that up to $162,000.
Yep.
So are we saying that we've considered those and are declining them?
Tom, I don't know if did you hear that question at all?
No.
Okay, so just briefly, the question is identified in your report that you said that Business Hawke's Bay had not specifically sought an increase in funding from the regional council, but actually in their submission and certainly in their verbal presentation yesterday, they identified a number of potential expenditure around things like website development and so forth, that we think totaled about $162,000. 182, thank you, $182,000. The question is, had you looked at that and dismissed it, if you like, or was it not clear in your, well, why was the reason why that wasn't addressed in your response?
So my reading from that was that Business Hawke's Bay submission was, of course, like probably most submitters, they would dearly like some funding, but I had probably indicated to them that that an increase in funding for economic development may not be. Sorry, I'm just looking to hear you. The budgets were tight and there was not a lot of room for an increase in funding. So my understanding of that submission was that it was, look, this is our wish list. We certainly would like to do some more, but that their focus was probably more on getting all their funding from regional council as opposed to, getting funding across councils. That would be there's much value in getting regional funding from us as opposed to getting funding across all councils.
Madam Chair,
Yes, councillor.
I just asked Tom to confirm that Business Hawke's Bay have actually managed to improve their funding base fairly substantially over the last couple of years, with a contribution from Hastings District and from Napier City Council, so that in fact they are far better funded than they were certainly 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah, correct. They have received an increase in funding from Hastings District Council of an additional 50,000, taken into 100,000, and I think I understand that the Hastings District Council are prepared to consider that on a 3-year term. They secured new funding of $100,000 from Napier City Council, but I think Napier City Council made a submission that they would prefer if there was to be. I think it's part of Napier City Council's long-term plan that they would prefer Business Hawke's Bay to be a part of the regional funding model that they're proposing.
Okay, and I've got a second question for confirmation, and that is that if you could confirm that they are in the process of developing a revision or an update of the regional economic development strategy, and that process is happening at the moment but is incomplete. It's also, as well as being incomplete, in my view, it's quite overdue. It's about 18 months overdue, and it would seem to me that before we commit anything more, then we should see some output on that strategy review.
Yeah, so the current the economic development rate that we receive at the moment is very much spent in accordance with the current regional economic development strategy, which is effectively sees funding go across to Hawke's Bay Tourism, Business Hawke's Bay, and I suppose what is the bulk of my role in terms of primary sector resilience. Yes, absolutely, the regional economic development strategy is currently under review, and it probably is overdue for review. And that's an initiative that is being managed, as you're probably aware, by all councils, economic development staff, and business with Business Hawke's Bay in support.
Madam Chair, I'd also just ask for confirmation that the Chamber of Commerce submission basically said that Business Hawke's Bay is funded quite adequately for its administration, but if it's to have additional funding, it should be for actually doing things and producing significant outputs.
My recollection of the, and I'm sorry I don't have it in front of me, but but my recollection of the Chamber of Commerce was not necessarily that Business Hawke's Bay funding, should be, ring fenced around its administration. I think that comment was to economic development in general. Should be specifically targeting, business attraction. Probably in the form of, incentives and literally getting out there and getting businesses into Hawke's Bay. So a much more sort of targeted spend, as opposed to promoting the region.
I've got a question. If you can't hear me, I'll get Ms. Lambert to relay it. My question relates to their oral submission, and clearly you were not aware of the content of that when you wrote your response. But specifically, of this 182,000, 100,000 is for a program manager specialised in manufacturing agri-tech. Can you tell us, given the work that you're doing with the PAN sector group around the agricultural sector and the development of opportunities with land intensification, whether at the moment there is a separate position in that justified?
Did you hear that, Tom?
I'd really appreciate if you could
Okay.
have a go at that, Luke.
So part of the $182,000 that was indicated by the submitter yesterday, of that $100,000 was earmarked for a business development manager position around agri-tech.
Manufacturing and agri-tech.
Manufacturing and agri-tech. So just given your role, and I guess in your the ambit of the work that you do on behalf of the Regional Council, the question is, in your view, is that role justified
At the moment.
at the moment? Such a role?
Well, look, I mean, I'd probably, my view is probably reflect Councillor Dick's, impression that now is probably the time, to get the regional economic development strategy review done, and then obviously, the biggest part of that, strategic piece is going to be, well, what does the region need to deliver on the strategy, and that will be telling. That will be obviously inform what the resources are required.
Thank you. Any other questions?
We give them $100,000 now?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we underwrite some rent, don't we?
And we underwrite some rent.
So I can get this simple, we give them 150 now annually? Is that right? We give them 150 now annually?
150?
Yeah.
100.
No,
We give them 100,
Yeah.
and they want an extra 183.
Well, I think what Tom Skirman is saying is that,
No,
in his view, at the moment, that's a bit of a wish list. It wasn't specified in the submission, and in the written submission, I beg your pardon. And in his view, perhaps that type of expenditure or what it's for would be better addressed once the economic development strategy has been reviewed.
but specifically, we give them 100 now, and they want another 183 to fulfil these functions here.
Yeah.
That's what they're asking for.
Yeah.
Well, whatever it is, but they're still asking for it. Okay, I just want to know what it is. Yeah,
Okay.
I got it.
Councillor.
So they, a bit late to this discussion, but through you, Madam Chair, to Tom Skirman, well, probably not really Tom, probably the Chief Executive. The regional funding of these matters is still up in the air. It's seen as nothing really more than a good idea at the moment from the mayors, and it is a good idea, but we're not there yet, are we?
Well, through you, Madam Chair, prior to you arriving at the meeting, there was a decision made around the Sport Hawke's Bay request around regional funding, a regional funding model, and it was agreed that that should be deferred until the local government reorganisation proposal is dealt with. So it would be similar, I would imagine. Well, any discussion on a regional funding model will also include funding of Business Hawke's Bay, or should.
Are there any further questions for Mr. Skirman?
I'll move no change.
Moved, seconded.
Second.
Thank you. You can probably let Tom go. Thank you,
Thanks,
Tom.
That's right, see ya, bye.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that it not be changed. I can't remember now who moved it. Oh, sorry, Councillor Dick. Councillor Dick, would you like to speak to that? Sorry, I lost that.
Yeah, well, look, they've made some progress both in funding and in structuring themselves. The business hub is a good concept to encourage collaboration and what's the word? No, what? Yeah.
Collaboration.
Collaboration, yeah. But their future is uncertain because they're still working on a strategic plan, so it's just inappropriate to allocate anything more or add to the rates burden at this stage.
Seconder, Councillor Graham, do you like to?
I 100% agree with what Councillor Dick said. I'm not sure who got them off the ground first, whether it was Hastings or us, but maybe it was a collaboration of both. But now they are seriously off the ground. It's a great facility and well used by people. But they've now got Napier Hastings behind them equally, and we're there equally, and it just seems appropriate that we leave it in that position.
Councillor Wilson?
Oh, just a question of clarification. Were any of the submitters this morning talking in either favour or against this? Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? In which case, you don't. I'll put the motion in. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried.